My daughter stole everything from me on my birthday. Dear friends, before we begin, please subscribe. It costs nothing but means everything. Then comment your state so we can connect with you. Your support keeps these family dramas alive and growing. Thank you for standing by this channel. Now, my story continues. My name is Evelyn Parker. I'm 75 years old. I live in a small town in Ohio. For weeks, I had been planning my birthday. 75 felt like a big number, a milestone you only reach once. I wanted this day to be special. I wanted my daughter Claire to feel proud. I wanted my grandchildren Emma and Jack to laugh around me. The kitchen smelled like vanilla frosting. The living room was full of balloons. In the backyard, my neighbor Tom helped string fairy lights. "You deserve the best, Evelyn," Tom said. I smiled, holding back a tear. After all these years, I thought I finally had everything. I imagined Claire walking in with flowers. I imagined my family singing happy birthday. I imagined laughter filling the house I had built. The cake was already on the table, chocolate with thick frosting and strawberries. My favorite since I was a little girl in Kentucky. I set out the china plates, the ones my husband Robert bought 40 years ago. The silverware shined under the kitchen light. It felt like the house was smiling with me. Every corner whispered love, hope, and belonging. For once I believed this family would come together. Claire had promised me she would come. She told me she wanted the day to be perfect. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my only daughter, the girl I raised on my own, the one I sacrificed everything for. I worked 2 jobs when Robert passed away. I scrubbed office floors at night. I served coffee at the diner during the day. Every dollar I saved went to her education. Every dream I had was placed in her hands, and I never once regretted it. Neighbors often told me, "Evelyn, you spoil that girl." I laughed and said, "She's all I've got." And that was the truth. On the morning of my birthday, I woke early. The sun came through the curtains, soft and golden. The house smelled like fresh coffee and cinnamon rolls. I set out the folding chairs in the yard. I placed the gifts I had wrapped myself. Yes, I wrapped my own gifts. Not because I was lonely, but because I wanted everything to look cheerful. No empty table, no bare corner. I wore my blue dress, the one Robert loved. It still fit after all these years. I looked in the mirror and whispered, "Today will be beautiful." The clock ticked closer to noon. Guests would arrive in an hour. I took one last look around the house. Every detail felt perfect. Every detail was filled with love. I thought nothing could ruin this day, but I was wrong. When I think about Claire, I see her as a little girl, her hair in pigtails, her hands always clutching my apron. She was only 7 when Robert died. A steel beam fell on him at the construction site. One call changed our lives forever. That day, I became both mother and father. I promised Claire I would never let her feel alone. I promised she would always have a home. I kept that promise, even when I had nothing. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house. 1 room for her, 1 room for me. Winters in Ohio were brutal. Sometimes the furnace broke. I remember wrapping Claire in 3 blankets at night. I told her stories until she fell asleep. In the mornings, I would make pancakes, sometimes just with flour and water, but I made them smile-shaped so she would laugh. She grew up on peanut butter sandwiches, hand-me-down clothes from neighbors, but she never complained, at least not back then. I took double shifts at Miller's Diner. I cleaned offices downtown after midnight. I slept only 4 hours some nights. Every dollar I earned went into her future. I saved for her college tuition. I mortgaged this very house to make it happen. When she was accepted into Ohio State University, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. It was the proudest day of my life. I remember moving her into the dorm, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs, her posters, her books, her stuffed bear from childhood. She hugged me and said, "You're the best mom anyone could ask for." I held on to those words for years. Claire became a bright, confident young woman. She married David, a successful accountant. They had Emma and Jack. For a while, it felt like everything I had dreamed of came true. Family dinners, Christmas mornings with stockings on the fireplace, Thanksgiving turkeys too big for my oven. Claire would say, "Mom, none of this would be possible without you." She bragged to her friends about my sacrifices. She told Emma and Jack that their grandma was a hero. Hearing that made every struggle worth it. I thought we were unbreakable. When Claire suggested moving back into my house, I thought it was a blessing. She said, "Mom, it will be easier to take care of you." I believed her. We built extra rooms with David's help. Emma painted the walls pink. Jack covered his with baseball posters. The halls were filled with laughter again. The smell of Claire's lasagna on Sunday nights, the sound of Emma practicing piano in the living room. It felt like the family I had always wanted, the kind you see in Hallmark movies, the kind I thought I had earned. Even my neighbor Tom noticed. He said, "Evelyn, your house feels alive again." I smiled and said, "Yes, it finally does." I was sure Claire loved me. She hugged me often. She called me her rock. On Emma's 15th birthday, she whispered, "Grandma, you're the reason Mom is so strong." I thought my heart would burst with joy. For decades, I gave everything to this family, my sweat, my health, my dreams. And I never asked for anything back, except love, just love. But love can be deceiving. Sometimes it wears a mask, and I didn't see it slipping. I thought my daughter would always protect me. I thought I could always trust her. I thought family meant forever. But I was about to learn the truth, and it would break me in ways I never imagined. At first, it was small things, little things I could have ignored. Claire started checking the mail before I did. She said she wanted to be helpful, but she never left the envelopes on the counter. She tucked them into her purse. I asked once Claire, was there anything important? She smiled quickly. "Just junk mail, Mom. Don't worry about it." But I noticed the bank logo on one envelope. I didn't say anything. I told myself she probably had a reason. Then came the phone calls. I would hear her voice down the hallway, low-rushed like she didn't want anyone to hear. Whenever I walked closer, the talking stopped. She would slide her phone into her pocket. "Everything okay?" I asked one evening. She nodded. "Just work stuff, Mom." But Claire didn't have a job anymore. She had quit 2 years earlier. She said she wanted to focus on the kids. So what kind of work phone calls were these? I couldn't stop thinking about it. One Saturday, I walked into the kitchen. She was standing over a pile of papers. When she saw me, she flipped them face down. "What's that?" I asked. "Oh, just bills," she said too fast. She gathered them quickly and shoved them into a drawer. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But my stomach told me something was wrong. Emma noticed too. "Grandma Mom's been kind of stressed lately," she whispered. "She's always on the phone with Uncle David's office." I froze. David had been gone for 3 years. He died in a car accident on I-71. So who exactly was she calling? I asked Claire again a few nights later. We were in the living room. The kids were upstairs. The TV was playing softly. I said, "Claire, honey, are you okay?" She looked at me like I was a stranger. Her eyes were cold. Her smile thin and sharp. "I'm fine, Mom. Just let me handle things. Handle what that part she never explained." Tom, my neighbor, came by to drop off tools. He leaned close and whispered, "Evelyn, I've seen Claire out late at night, driving around with boxes in her trunk." I felt a chill run through me. Why would she be moving things at midnight? What was she hiding? The week before my birthday, it got worse. I couldn't find my checkbook. I searched every drawer, every pocket. It was gone. When I asked Claire, she shrugged. "Maybe you misplaced it." But her eyes darted to her purse. At night, I lay awake in my bed. The house creaked in the Ohio wind. I listened to muffled voices downstairs, Claire and someone else. I pressed my ear to the door. The words were too soft, but the tone was sharp, businesslike, almost threatening. I tiptoed back to my room, heart pounding in my chest. I told myself I was imagining things, but deep down, I knew better. On the morning of my birthday, I caught Claire in the kitchen. She was holding my house deed, the original copy. I froze in the doorway. She didn't see me at first. Her fingers traced the paper like it was hers. When I stepped closer, she shoved it back into the folder. "Mom, you shouldn't worry about documents. I'll take care of everything." Her words were soft, but her tone was sharp. Something in her voice made me shiver. I wanted to shout to demand the truth, but I didn't. I swallowed my fear. I forced a smile. Because it was my birthday. Because guests were coming. Because I still believed she loved me. But love was changing. It was turning into something I didn't recognize, something darker, and I was about to discover just how dangerous it could be. I wanted to believe things were fine. I wanted to believe my daughter still loved me. So I tried again. I tried to reach her. One afternoon, I found Claire in the kitchen. She was writing something quickly, her pen scratching loud. I said, "Honey, let me help you with bills." She looked up fast, almost startled. Her hand covered the paper. "No, Mom, I've got it handled." I reached for the paper gently. "Claire, I used to balance all our checkbooks." She pulled it away. Her smile was thin, tight. "Not anymore, Mom. Just let me do this." Her words stung, like I was no longer trusted in my own house. Later that week, I suggested inviting friends from church. We were in the living room. Emma and Jack were playing video games. I said it would be lovely to see Pastor Allen. Claire shook her head quickly. "No, Mom. This is a family thing." I frowned. "He's been family to us for years." Claire's voice rose slightly. "Not this time. Trust me, okay? Trust her." That phrase kept echoing in my mind, but it didn't sound like comfort anymore. It sounded like a warning. On Wednesday, Tom stopped by with fresh tomatoes. He handed them over the fence. "Evelyn, I hardly see you outside these days." I smiled weakly. I've been busy with family, but the truth was Claire didn't like me outside much. Every time I stepped out, she asked where I was going, like I was a child needing permission. That night, I sat at the dinner table. Claire placed plates of pasta in front of us. Emma and Jack chatted about school, but Claire hardly looked at me. I asked softly, "Do you need help with the house payments?" Her fork clattered against her plate. "I told you, Mom, I'm handling it." Her tone was sharp. The kids went silent. I tried to smile. "I just want to make sure Stop Claire cut me off. You worry too much." The room fell quiet. The only sound was the hum of the fridge. My hands trembled on my lap. After dinner, Emma hugged me. "Don't be sad, Grandma. Mom's just stressed." I kissed her forehead, but inside I felt hollow. 2 days later, I caught Claire in the study. She was holding the deed again. This time, she didn't even try to hide it. I said, "Claire, why do you keep reading that?" Her eyes flicked up sharp and cold. "Because I'm preparing for the future." I swallowed hard. "What kind of future?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You'll see soon enough." Her words chilled me more than the Ohio winter ever could. On the morning before my birthday, I tried one last time. I stood in the kitchen frosting the cake myself. Claire walked in, her phone pressed to her ear. I said softly, "Honey, sit with me for a minute." She covered the receiver and sighed. "Not now, Mom. I'm busy." "Please, Claire, just a minute." She rolled her eyes. "I told you, Mom, I'm handling things. Stop worrying about what doesn't concern you." Didn't concern me. This was my home, my life, my family. But the look in her eyes stopped me. Cold, flat, like a door had slammed shut between us. I stood there in silence, cake knife still in my hand, my heart aching with confusion. I thought maybe tomorrow would be better. Maybe on my birthday things would change. Maybe love would return. But deep inside, I knew tomorrow would not bring peace. It would bring something far worse. The sun was bright that afternoon. The backyard was filled with voices and laughter. Tom had set up folding chairs. Emma carried plates of chips and soda. Jack kept running back and forth with balloons. For a moment, it almost felt normal, almost felt like family. Guests began to arrive. Some neighbors, a few cousins, even Pastor Allen. Everyone hugged me saying, "Happy birthday, Evelyn. You look wonderful." I smiled through tears. 75. I never thought I'd make it here. Claire finally walked into the yard. She wore a red dress, her hair perfect. All eyes turned to her. She carried no flowers, no gifts, but she carried something else. Papers tucked tightly under her arm. I thought nothing of it at first. I was just glad she came. I reached out to hug her. She let me, but her arms were stiff. We all gathered around the cake. Chocolate frosting. 15 candles, one for every 5 years. Emma lit them carefully. Everyone sang, their voices blended into the warm Ohio air. For a second, my heart soared. I closed my eyes to make a wish. I wished for love, for family, for peace. I blew out the candles. The smoke curled in the breeze. Everyone clapped. And then Claire spoke. Loud, sharp, clear enough for everyone to hear. "From this day forward, everything belongs to me." The yard went silent. Every head turned. My smile froze on my face. "What are you talking about?" I asked softly. She held up the papers. My lawyer filed the documents. The house, the accounts. It's all mine now. A gasp rippled through the guests. Pastor Allen's face went pale. Tom gripped the back of his chair. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. "No, Claire, that's not possible. This is my home." She laughed bitterly. "Not anymore. You're too old, Mom. You can't manage things. So I'm taking control." Emma dropped her lighter. "Mom, what are you saying?" But Claire ignored her. She turned back to me. "You should be grateful. I'm saving you from yourself." Her words cut deeper than any knife. This was my daughter, my only child, the one I gave my life for. And she was stealing it all, on my birthday, in front of everyone. I tried to speak. My throat locked. The paper shook in her hand. I whispered, "Why would you do this to me?" Claire's eyes were cold. "Because it's time. And because everything you own is mine by right." The silence was unbearable. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Some whispered. I stood there frozen, the cake untouched, the candles still smoking. Claire placed the papers on the table. She tapped them with her finger. "This is the future now, Mom. Accept it." My heart cracked wide open. The day that should have been full of love had turned into my greatest humiliation. And I realized this was only the beginning. The betrayal had just begun. The yard went silent. I could hear only the wind in the trees. Every pair of eyes was on me, some wide with shock, some darting away in shame. The papers sat on the table, like a weapon waiting to strike again. My cheeks burned hot. I felt smaller than ever before, like a stranger in my own backyard. Emma's lips trembled. "Mom, please, don't do this here." Her voice cracked, filled with fear. But Claire didn't back down. She stood taller, her chin lifted like a queen on a throne. "This is how it has to be," she declared, cold, final, unforgiving. I searched the crowd for support. Pastor Allen shifted uncomfortably. He looked down at his shoes. Tom's jaw clenched, but he stayed silent. My cousins avoided my eyes. One adjusted her purse strap nervously. Another coughed into her hand. No one spoke up, not one person. I was alone. I tried to speak, but my voice faltered. My house. My life. "You can't just Claire cut me off. I already have, Mom." Her words echoed through the yard. Even the children stopped breathing. I gripped the back of a chair. My knees shook beneath me. The wood bit into my palm. I needed something solid to hold on to. The cake sat untouched, chocolate frosting melting in the sun, the candles still bent, smoke curling faintly. What should have been my celebration had turned into my humiliation. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She reached for me, whispering, "Grandma, it's going to be okay." But Claire pulled her back sharply. "Don't interfere." The look in my daughter's eyes, it wasn't love anymore. It was power and cruelty. Jack tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, stop. You're scaring Grandma." But she didn't even glance at him. I wanted to run, to hide, to vanish. But where could I go? This was my home, or at least it used to be. The sound of a fork hitting a plate made me jump. Someone cleared their throat. The awkward shuffle of feet filled the silence. No laughter, no music, no joy. Just shame, my shame. I saw Tom finally look up. Our eyes met. His face was tight with anger, but he stayed quiet. Maybe he thought it wasn't his place. Maybe they all thought that. But their silence cut deeper than words. I realized then how alone I truly was. My daughter had erased me before my entire world. The voices in my head screamed. How did it come to this? How could the girl I raised turn me into nothing? I took a step back. The yard spun around me. Faces blurred together. Whispers rose like smoke. She lost everything. Poor Evelyn. Maybe it's for the best. Their pity was worse than their silence. I didn't want pity. I wanted dignity. But in that moment, I had none. Claire slid the papers closer to me. "Sign them, Mom. Make it official." Her tone was sweet like honey, but sharp as broken glass. I stared at the papers, my name printed in black ink, my life reduced to signatures. I whispered, "Not today." It was all I could manage. She sneered. "You'll come around. You don't have a choice." I turned away from the table. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't look at anyone. I walked back into the house, each step heavy, each step hollow. Behind me, voices rose again, laughter forced and brittle, trying to erase what just happened. But nothing could erase it. I had been humiliated, erased, in front of my own family, and for the first time in my 75 years, I felt truly invisible. I closed the sliding glass door behind me. The noise from the yard faded into a dull hum. Inside the house was quiet, too quiet, like it already knew it no longer belonged to me. I leaned against the wall. My breath came shallow. My chest ached. The laughter outside returned faint but sharp. I pressed my hands over my ears, but I couldn't block it out. This was supposed to be my day, my celebration, my family. Instead, it felt like my funeral, and no one had the courage to bury me. I walked slowly into the living room. Every corner of the house whispered memories. The floral couch Robert and I bought on clearance. The lamp Emma used to read under. The baseball glove Jack left on the windowsill. It was all mine once, every piece soaked with my sacrifices, and now it was slipping away. I sank onto the couch. My hands trembled in my lap. The room swayed around me. I thought about Robert. If he had lived, would Claire have turned out different? Would she still be this cruel? Tears burned my eyes. I tried to swallow them down, but they came anyway. I cried quietly so no one outside would hear, so no one could add more pity to my shame. I whispered to the empty room, "How did it come to this?" The silence answered back, cold and unforgiving. I wanted someone to knock on the door, to walk in and say, "Evelyn, we're with you," but no one came. Even Pastor Allen stayed outside, the man who had prayed with me through Robert's funeral, through Claire's graduation, through Emma's baptism. Even he turned away. The realization hit me harder than Claire's words. I wasn't just betrayed, I was abandoned. I looked down at my hands, wrinkled, shaking. These were the same hands that fed Claire, that buttoned her dresses, that wrote checks for her tuition. Now they were empty. No money, no power, no daughter. The sound of footsteps drifted through the door. Claire's voice followed, muffled but clear. "She'll come around. She doesn't have a choice." The words twisted like knives in my chest. Choice. That was the one thing I thought I had left. I stood and walked to the hallway. The mirror caught me by surprise. I saw an old woman, eyes, red lips trembling, shoulders slumped like a defeated soldier. I didn't recognize her. Was this who I had become? Was this what 75 years had led me to? I pressed my palm against the glass. The reflection did the same. It felt like I was trapped behind a wall I couldn't break. I whispered to the mirror, "You are not nothing." But my voice cracked, and I didn't believe it. I went into my bedroom. The quilt Robert's mother had sewn still lay across the bed. I sat on the edge, my heart heavy as stone. I imagined Claire upstairs folding away my papers, counting money that wasn't hers, claiming a life she never built. The thought made me shiver. How could she erase me so easily? Didn't she remember the winters I kept her warm, the nights I skipped dinner so she could eat? I closed my eyes. Memories came fast and cruel. Claire's 7th birthday, her eyes sparkling over a pink bike, her prom night, her tears when I fixed the broken zipper on her dress, her wedding day, the way she hugged me whispering, "Thank you, Mom, for everything." Were those moments lies? Were they just steps on a road leading to this betrayal? The questions drowned me. I felt like I was sinking deeper and deeper into a dark ocean. I lay down on the bed, the ceiling blurred above me. For a moment I thought maybe it would be easier to never get up again. Maybe if I closed my eyes long enough I could drift away. I could escape the humiliation, the loneliness, the emptiness. But then I heard Emma's laugh outside, bright, innocent. The sound pulled me back. I remembered Jack's smile, the way he hugged me after every baseball game, the way he said, "Grandma, you're my biggest fan." And the tears came harder. Because I wasn't just losing a house, I was losing them, the children who still needed me. I turned my face into the quilt. The fabric smelled faintly of lavender. Robert's cologne lingered in the fibers. It felt like he was beside me. "Robert," I whispered, "I don't know what to do." The room stayed quiet, but in that silence, I felt the weight of 75 years crash down. I was alone, forgotten, erased from my own life. This was the bottom, and I wasn't sure if I could ever climb back up. I don't know how long I lay there, minutes, hours. It all blurred together. The quilt beneath me was damp from my tears. The lavender scent clung to my skin. The silence pressed heavy on my chest. But then something shifted inside me. A small voice whispered, "Evelyn, you've survived worse." I sat up slowly. My body ached, but my heart steadied. I remembered Robert's accident, the phone call that shattered my world. I remembered standing at his funeral, holding Claire's tiny hand and swearing I would never break. I remembered working 3 jobs, cleaning offices until 2 a.m., serving coffee at dawn, walking home through snow with blisters on my feet. I had survived all of that, alone, strong. Why was I letting Claire undo me now? I stood and walked to the dresser, the old oak one Robert built with his hands. The bottom drawer creaked when I pulled it open. Inside, beneath folded sweaters, was a metal lockbox, the one Claire never knew about. I lifted it with shaking hands, set it on the bed, pulled out the key from my chain necklace. The lock clicked open. Inside were papers neatly stacked, bank statements, insurance forms, and most important, the house deed still in my name. I traced my finger over the embossed seal, notarized 5 years ago, untouched by Claire's scheming, then tucked beneath it the document that steadied my breath, my will, signed, stamped, filed with Attorney Harris downtown. In black ink, it read, "All assets, including the house, were to go to Emma and Jack, and a portion to the local church fund." Nothing for Claire. I had made that choice years earlier, not because I didn't love her, but because I wanted to protect the future, protect the grandchildren, protect the community that always stood by me. Claire had no idea. She thought she already owned everything, but she didn't. She never did. The realization poured through me like fire. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't erased. Not yet. I folded the deed and went back into the box, closed the lid with a firm snap, slid the key back onto my chain. It rested warm against my chest, like a shield. I stood taller in front of the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't broken anymore. Her eyes were tired, yes, but steady, clear, alive. I whispered, "You still matter, Evelyn. Don't you forget it." Outside voices rose again, laughter, the clink of glasses. Claire's voice carrying above the rest. I walked slowly back to the sliding door. I didn't open it, not yet, but I stood there watching the people in my yard. They thought I was finished. They thought I was defeated. But inside, I was building strength. I imagined Claire counting her victory, imagined her bragging about her control. She had no clue the ground beneath her feet wasn't hers at all. I pressed my hand against the glass. The cool surface grounded me. The reflection showed a woman reborn. Emma's laugh rang through the air. Jack chased her with a balloon. Their joy reminded me why I had to fight. Not for the house, not for the money, but for them, for the truth. I whispered to myself, she thinks she won, but the story isn't over. The strength in my chest grew. The fear loosened its grip. I wasn't just Evelyn the mother anymore. I was Evelyn the survivor, and I knew the next move was mine. The next morning, the air was cool. Ohio autumn always carried that sharp edge. I woke early before the house stirred. The lockbox still sat beside my bed. Its weight comforted me like an old friend. I brewed coffee, the smell filling the kitchen. For the first time in days, my hands didn't shake as I poured. Claire came downstairs eventually. She didn't say good morning. She didn't even look at me, just grabbed her phone and keys. "Going out," she muttered. The door slammed behind her. I sat at the table quietly. The steam from my mug curled upward, and I decided then I wasn't going to beg anymore. After she left, I called Tom. His voice came steady through the line. "Evelyn, I was waiting for your call." Within 30 minutes, he was sitting across from me, his eyes full of concern. "You don't deserve this. Tell me what you need." I slid the papers across the table. The deed, the will. He read them carefully, his brows lifting. Claire doesn't own this, he said firmly. She has no legal right. You're protected, Evelyn. The words settled in my chest like sunlight. For the first time, I felt solid again. Will you drive me to Harris's office? I asked. Of course, Tom nodded. Let's take care of this today. The ride into town felt surreal. I watched the trees blur past the window, gold, orange, red autumn in full bloom. It reminded me life still moved forward. Attorney Harris greeted me kindly, a man in his 60s, glasses perched low on his nose. Evelyn, it's been a while, he said warmly. I explained everything. The party, the papers Claire waved in front of everyone, the humiliation. His jaw tightened. She can make noise, but she can't take what isn't hers. Your documents are clear and binding. Relief washed over me. I wasn't powerless, not anymore. We updated the will just to be sure. Clearer language, even stronger terms. Everything to Emma, Jack, and Charity. Not $1 to Claire. When I left his office, the sun felt warmer on my face. I inhaled deeply. The crisp air tasted like freedom. Tom patted my shoulder. You did the right thing, Evelyn. I nodded slowly. Yes, but I also need to do one more thing. That evening, I sat Emma and Jack down. The house was quiet. Claire wasn't home yet. I looked into their young eyes, innocent, hopeful, scared. I said softly, listen to me carefully, both of you. No matter what happens, this house will always be yours. Your future is safe. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Grandma, I don't want you to leave. I hugged her tightly. You won't lose me, sweetheart, I promise. Jack squeezed my hand. Grandma, you're stronger than Mom. The words nearly broke me, but they also healed me. Later, I went to my room. I opened the window. The cool night air swept across my face, and I felt lighter. For so long, I had carried fear. Now I carried truth, and truth was enough. I didn't need to fight Claire with shouting. I didn't need to beg her for love. I had something stronger, my dignity, my choices, my voice. I whispered into the night, Robert, I did it. I'm still standing. And for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. Because healing doesn't always come from winning. Sometimes it comes from standing tall when the world tries to break you. And I knew deep down I was ready for whatever came next. A week later, the truth caught up to Claire. Attorney Harris sent her the official notice. The house was still mine. The accounts were safe. Her papers meant nothing. When she stormed into the kitchen, her face was red with fury. She slammed her phone on the counter. You went behind my back. I stood calmly at the sink, the window open, the scent of autumn leaves drifting in. No, Claire, I said softly. I simply protected what was already mine. Her eyes darted, searching for control. But this time she found none. The law was clear. The truth undeniable. She shouted, cursed, but her words no longer pierced me, because I had already made peace. I didn't need her approval anymore. Emma and Jack stood in the doorway. Emma's hand slipped into mine. Jack whispered, Grandma, we're with you. For the first time, Claire looked small. Her power drained away. Her children saw her clearly. She left that evening, suitcases in hand, anger still burning, but I let her go. Because holding on to bitterness would only chain me to her choices, and I was done being chained. The days after felt lighter. The house was quiet again, peaceful, the way it used to be. Emma played piano in the living room. Jack practiced baseball in the yard. Tom dropped by with fresh apples. Pastor Allen prayed with us on Sundays. I wasn't alone anymore. I wasn't erased. I was still Evelyn Parker, and my life was mine to live. Claire faced the consequences. The family spoke of her betrayal. Neighbors turned away from her lies. The papers she waved meant nothing now. She tried to control everything. But in the end, she lost the one thing that mattered most: trust. As for me, I found freedom in forgiveness, not for her, but for myself, because carrying anger would only weigh me down, and I was ready to be free. Now, when I walk through the house, I don't see fear anymore. I see strength. I see survival. I see 75 years that no one can take away. Family can hurt the deepest, but family can also heal. Emma's laugh, Jack's smile, Tom's kindness. Those are the pieces of family I hold close. I ask myself sometimes what truly makes a family. Is it blood or is it love, respect, and trust? And I ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you choose? To fight for dignity or to surrender to betrayal? I know my answer. I chose dignity, and it saved me. So here I stand, stronger than before, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Message for you. Family can betray, but dignity heals, love survives, and peace is possible. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced betrayal at home? Don't forget to subscribe for more true family stories.